slightly different format. We want to introduce ourselves and the city, but we'll do it a little unconventionally. Well, we wanted to have an impressive introduction to all the impressive solutions we'll present to the city of Burbank. We want to talk about the beginnings of the city. So like any other city, the city of Burbank had humble beginnings. It started off as a mere village of 500 individuals, and when they became incorporated, it continued on to become prosperous. Now, naturally, with any city that grows in size, and also in terms of importance as well to the rest of the nation, there is a lot of other factors that need to be taken into consideration. And some of those factors is also at the city level. How do you regulate businesses? And then how do you pass the laws in order to allow for the city to grow and stay prosperous? And so we're going to present solutions in terms of, how do we get the city, the citizens of the city to be more involved in the process of the election. So naturally, we were given an objective. And the question at hand was, one, how do you get more people to register to vote? And how do you get those people excited enough to actually show up and vote? And so in order for us to answer this question, we wanted to take a look at outside of the country in order to understand what's happening within the U.S. So we took a look at other countries out there who are trying to implement the democratic process. And naturally, what we came across was a great deal of tyranny. And there was also a lot of suppression, voter suppression. And so taking that into account, it gives us a greater sense of appreciation for what we actually have within the United States. So, you look at the country as a whole at the national level, but then you have to zoom in to the local level as well, which is the city elections. And so the question is, how do you get people excited? Well, we have to keep in mind that voting is a right. It's been granted to us by the Constitution, by the forefathers who wrote it. And so they realize that the government is composed of the people, by the people, and for the people. So in order for the city, the state, and the nation, a democratic nation, to be prosperous, the people have to be involved. That's the essence of it. So taking that into consideration, we looked at a series of different solutions, and we came up with several comprehensive solutions to the problem that we were presented with.
So what are other cities or states doing to increase voter registration? The city of Corona increases their voter registration by having registration forms available at multiple locations, such as public libraries, the post offices, the DMV, and of course the City Hall. Another thing the city of Corona is doing, they're offering an opportunity for an internship for the students in the community to get involved with the voting process and a registration process. Just a great word of mouth advertisements coming from the students, and it gives them opportunity to learn why voting is important. And it's just a wonderful way for it's beneficial for students to understand why voting is important. The state of New York, they do offer electronic versions of the applications online, and they also offer PDF formats of it available in Spanish and in English. It's very easy to access the PDF formats online. The state of Minnesota, they use electronic poll books. Now these poll books, the voters can register and cast their ballot by just swiping their driver's license or identification card. It allows for instantaneous voter identification and verification of voting status. It's very cost effective, and it's reduction in voter fraud, and it's a very easy way of keeping a record.
So in order to come up with viable solutions for our voter outreach program, we had to find out why the voters would or would not vote in the upcoming or in the future elections. And what we've done was generate a survey, 10 questions. It's an open survey, open to anyone, regardless of age, political affiliations, that sort of thing. And we found out a few interesting things. When it comes to the actual mediums, the actual means of communication with the voter registration, with the elections, the propositions, the candidates, social media obviously plays a role for all of our age groups. But one thing that we found out was that when it comes to the actual mediums that everyone is influenced by, our younger generation, our younger groups would actually be influenced by advertising and promotion that is more reactive, something that they would be able to see, such as the posters, and they think, oh, I should go vote when I turn 18, or I should remember to actually go out to my polling place and vote. As we grow older, we actually take a more proactive approach in which we actually participate in council meetings, and we volunteer to set up a poll booth in our garages, or we volunteer at a local polling place to help others cast their vote in the same sense. Now, when it comes to the individuals who don't vote, the number one reason that we've found is apathy. The second reason, obviously, being scheduling conflicts when it comes to work, school, that sort of thing. Apathy has been the biggest reason as to why individuals are discouraged to vote. When they think, oh, my vote doesn't count, or someone else is going to make the vote for me, and it's not going to be something that I'm going to like. It obviously discourages a lot of people, especially younger voters who have opinions. They have ideas on how they can make their city or their country work, but they see the news, the media these days, and they get discouraged very easily. So one of the things that we focus on is actually encouraging and getting others excited on the idea of voting and actually participating in their political systems today.
So one of the best ways to advertise voting is to create big, bold, colorful banners that really stands out, that has a powerful message. Because having so many yard signs and posters becomes, people become bombarded and it becomes overwhelming, and you start ignoring all those signs. But having a powerful message like, you can make a difference, or one vote can save a life, can really influence the people to go out there and vote. Now, you can actually design these banners on a couple of websites that we found. One was called AAAflag.com. Another one was called onlinesigns.biz. Now, on these websites, you can actually pick the font, the color, the text, whether you want to be double-sided or single-sided, and how big you want it to be. Now, this 40 feet by 3 feet banner is double-sided, and it's about $1,180. So it's very good cost for such a big banner, and it's very colorful, and it's very big. And here's an example of what we think a banner with a powerful message will look like. Something like, you can change the law, vote now, really speaks volumes. Now, we post this banner at the intersection of Magnolia Boulevard and Hollywood Way. You want to put these banners at intersections with heavy foot traffic and car traffic, and having a banner like this can really capture the audience's attention to go out there and vote.
Now, as we continue to take a careful look at what needs to be done in order to raise awareness, we came across another interesting solution to the problem, and that's concerts and festivities. Now, normally you would think a concert is going to cost a lot. Well, we have a low-cost solution for a concert, and we'll explain why a concert. So by talking to local high school students, we realize that there's true talent out there. You have bands out there, and these kids, they want to perform. They want to show their talents, and they can do it for free because they're interested in exposure. And these parks, it's nominal in terms of cost in order to rent the space. And we can have these concerts or festivities be a picnic-style format where people bring their foods and there's free entertainment. And this becomes an opportunity for communities to get together. So it's good for everybody in general. People come over, it's a family event, they enjoy it. And during the concert itself, you can make an announcement that, we're doing this as an effort to raise awareness in order for you to come out and vote if you can. And we can also have booths over there where if people want to register, it's an opportunity for them to register, become a registered voter. And it's additional feedback allowing people to realize that the elections are coming up. And all this can be done at a low cost, and it benefits everybody across the board, especially families. Now, we continue to analyze, and we actually did in-depth literature review. And we came across a series of articles, and one of them was actually conducted by the Public Policy Institute of California. And when we took a look, it was about a 100-page document. There was a couple of solutions that jumped out. And this study was done thoroughly, and it's a peer-reviewed article. So one of them was presidential elections. So they mentioned that if you were to change the date and the year in which the local elections are being held, such that it coincides with that of the presidential elections, senatorial and congressional elections, you will see a substantial jump, as much as 30%. And this is all associated to the fact that there's increased awareness that there's something going on. The government, in terms of the national election, they spend a lot of money. The Obama administration actually spent as much as $1 billion, and that was monumental because he had raised the most amount of money. And so if that amount of money is being raised, there's going to be sufficient awareness across the entire nation, including in the city of Burbank. So if you can coincide the local elections with the national elections, that's free publicity. People know something is going on. You can put in a small ad or notify the people that the election date has been changed, and there's greater likelihood that they will vote. So this makes complete sense. The other one was the city population. We realized that there is an inverse relationship between the size of the city and their likelihood to vote. And it was an inverse relationship. Essentially, the bigger the city, the less likely the people are to vote. And this makes psychological sense. If you think of this in terms of stocks, if you have a $700 stock, you do a 7-to-1 split, each stock is worth $100. So people naturally feel as though their votes are diluted. It doesn't make as much of an impact. Now, naturally, the city can't do too much about that alone because prosperity and growth is in the interest of the city. So we want the city to grow. But we do have solutions to raise awareness so that instead of it being an inverse relationship, it'll be a direct relationship. So that a bigger city will result in more people wanting to vote because it's a good city. Now, last, we have city services. So we came to the understanding that cities that provide more services, such that the service has a direct impact in the lives of the residents are more likely to actually go out there and participate. And this makes complete sense. If there is a certain provision out there that says you as a resident get a certain benefit, or there's a certain law that's been passed that benefits you personally or your business, and if you know that that's because of the city and that's benefiting you in some way, you're more likely to go out there and vote. Because if you don't vote, somebody else does, then that law might be changed. So you want your voice to be heard if you know the city actually makes an impact in your life. And we're going to talk about more in terms of what services can be offered by the city in order to leave this kind of an impact.
Targeting the youth. As high school students who have participated in this project, we have found out that our generation is unaware and uninformed about things that are going around in the city of Burbank. Currently, the senior citizens participate more in contributing to the voter turnout than we are, and now it is our time to shift our focus to younger people to participate in the elections to make greater changes in this community.
In order to target the youth, we came up with 3 steps: inspiring, educating, and acting.
First is to inspire. Young adults are lacking in their motivation and reasons to participate in the city elections. They don't value their votes and often think that they cannot contribute to this community because they don't have a power to do so. But it is important for us to let them know that they have the voice to speak and project that they can do greater things in this community because we are the next in line to take actions into making changes.
Why you? I think it's very important for the youth to know why they have to vote. Not everyone had the right to vote, and it wasn't until the Vietnam War where the deaths of the Vietnam War veterans awakened the society to realize that the youth needs a voice to be able to state their opinions. This 26th Amendment was formed to allow the youth to have a right to vote, and it's important for the youth to take advantage of that vote and that right and to take action.
Second is to educate. High schools are a great resource to encourage students to participate in the elections. One idea is to have field trips to the Burbank City Hall. Through the survey, we have found out that teachers are supportive of having such educational activity because it is affordable and students can learn more about histories of Burbank and even more about the current issues that are going around in the community. Another idea is to have panels of speakers. Through inviting the representatives or candidates to have direct encounter with the students, we can have clear idea and better understanding of propositions that they are advocating and affect the decisions that we will be making in the elections.
Act on it. Since the youth wants to see some actions throughout the community to encourage them to vote, they like to see advertisements. They usually like concise and impacting phrases, not those very long passage type of advertisements. And they would also like to have voting booths at school for them to easily approach the voting booth and to take part in the community. Although they are very active through the social media and they're always using it, they also want to see advertisements through flyers and banners to encourage them to participate.
And these are all great ideas. Obviously, we have great ideas for the short term and for the application, the mobile application. That would be a long-term goal that we would be able to accomplish very easily. The only thing that we would have to tie up in this case as a small thing would be the budget. And from what we have reviewed in the 2013 municipal budget by the city of Burbank, they used about $380,000 approximately from their budget out of the $395,000, which is great. I mean, they didn't go over their budget in this case, but when you go down into the actual voter turnout, the actual ballots cast, that actually it was pretty dismal. We saw percentages of 16 to 18%. So they almost used all of their budget, but it's not quite there when it comes to the cost of the actual turnout per voter. So we're essentially paying like maybe $20 to $23 just to have one person come out to cast their vote. And one of the things that we would be able to do in this case is to it's a two-pronged strategy. One would be the cost reduction, and another would be the actual fundraising and grant writing. When it comes to we actually reviewed the 2015 budget from their election vendor services, being Martin and Chapman for the city of Burbank. And for those of you who don't know, the election vendor services are the firms that bring out the ballots. They supply the ballots, the polling booths, the work when it comes to the actual tallying of the votes, the envelope stuffing, that sort of thing. Then overall general consulting when it comes to the upcoming elections. That's what the election vendor services are. And we found a few things that they would be able to cut their costs on. And one of them being the sample ballots. The sample ballots, obviously, you've seen those little pamphlets where you see the propositions, candidate statements, what you would normally see when you get a ballot at the polling booth. One of the solutions that we would be able to do in this case would be to actually offer that sample ballot online. And that's something that the County of Sonoma and the state of Minnesota are actually doing at this point. So once an individual is able to verify their eligibility to vote, either through an identification card, driver's license, they would be able to see everything online. The cost in the 2013 budget was about $60,000 just to be able to print and to mail out those sample ballots in this case. Just a simple reduction of about 20 to 30% would save about $18,000 altogether. I mean, it's a look for something that is more of a worst case scenario. They'd be able to save a good chunk of change in this case. Another cost reduction another thing that would reduce the cost for the municipal budget would be the insertion of the 9x12 envelopes. And that's the cost that we saw for the 2015 budget would be at $39,000 for the primary and the general elections, which seems a little bit frivolous. And one of the things that we have been able to, one of the solutions in this case would actually be to recruit volunteers. And that can be from high school students to senior citizens. It allows them to actually see how the city of Burbank prepares for the upcoming elections, how the actual process when it comes to setting up and tearing down the actual election day materials and the polling booths in this case. The third suggestion would be the candidate statements. Right as of this moment, I believe the candidate statements cost around $495 to about $500 for each statement, and the cost would add up if we are actually looking for translations into other languages. The city of Burbank currently offers a subsidy of $300 for the candidate, so it's something that would offset the cost for the candidate in this case. The solution in this case would be to stop the subsidies altogether. I mean, when it comes to the actual candidate statements, if this is something, if they want to get the word out to the citizens, to the actual residents of Burbank as to why they should vote for them when it comes to the actual city positions, I'm pretty sure they would be able to spare some sort of expense when it comes to their advertising and their promotion in this case. When it comes to grant writing, I did find one organization. They're called the James Irvine Foundation, and they're one of the few grant writing foundations that offer funding for the purpose of California democracy. So better voting practices, being able to regulate the actual tallying of the votes and encouraging others to get out and to make their vote count. It's definitely one of those things that we would be able to do to increase the amount of funds that we would be working with, so that we can make these actual voter outreach programs a reality.
So we have one last solution. And so thus far we've taken what I like to call evolutionary steps towards providing solutions. But as we took a look, all of these are great solutions and they could work. But why just stick with evolution if we can present a revolutionary solution? And that's what we have enduringly called this the Big Bang solution. And so the solution is jobs. Not the jobs that you're thinking of, not Steve Jobs, but the jobs in general. So basically what we did was we actually took a look to see what is relevant to people, what actually matters. And at the end of the day, what matters is what's going to resonate, and that's jobs. We all work hard, and we work hard for our families to provide financial security. So if this could be a service that the city could provide, it'll be a monumental leap forward. And this is what we actually have to propose. We want the city to create a database. That's essentially what we're offering. A database of jobs, not just for city jobs, but rather for all jobs within the city limits. So this database will allow for local businesses, if they have job offerings, they post their jobs up there. And for anybody who's looking for a job to go over there and take a look. And this will be on the city's website itself. It can be one of the services that are being provided. And as we took a look, this will benefit everybody across the board. So one of the people we're targeting is actually the youth. And so when you take a look at the youth, high school people who are trying to graduate, they're looking for their first job as well. Most students, they would benefit greatly from this if they go on the city website and they take a look to see what jobs are being offered, whether it's part-time or full-time. So that'll give them great experience. And then you have kids who are graduating from college. They're looking for their first job, their first career. Again, they can go on the city website. It gives them a great starting point. It's a resource that they can use. And even people who are further in their careers, if they want to make a lateral move, change industries, they can go on the city's website and look for a different job. And when they're on the city website, naturally, by virtue of serendipity, they're going to find other things on the website, and they'll become more aware of other services being offered. So this ties directly back in to the literature review that we talked about. Greater services being provided by the city will translate into greater relevance, and people will actually be motivated to vote. So we're incentivizing them, but not through monetary means, but rather through a database, something that's relevant, something that the city could do that'll make a positive impact in their lives. And it'll be very beneficial across the board. And one of the ways that we can raise awareness for this is actually, so when you have the envelopes that go out for the ballots, you put a small insert in there. And this insert will say that the city has new services, please go on our website. And when they go over there, they become exposed to a whole array of different solutions. For the database, we want to keep it simple and low cost. So what we propose is the city can use current existing search engines out there in databases. You have Indeed.com, Monster.com. You recruit their services, use your database. In addition, you can customize your own website, low cost. When you combine all of this together, you can create a digital barrier so that when people are looking for jobs, it's actually within the city limits. It doesn't take you to New York. It doesn't take you to Florida. It shows you the jobs that exist within the city. And this also benefits small businesses as well. If you're a small business looking to grow, what better way to advertise your business than posting a job? People go over there looking for jobs, they'll come across your business. Maybe they want to actually partake within your business as a consumer instead of just an employee. So across the board, this will be a monumental solution in terms of providing something for the residents, and in turn, the residents being satisfied, and by a law of reciprocity, they will be willing to vote. So we believe this will be highly effective. With that being said, we'd like to thank you for your attention.